This is such a clever idea that you do this. I love this whole thing.
Thank you. This has been so much fun for me, just getting to meet so many people and sharing like some of your guys' stories. I like want to cry every time I'm done. I'm like, what is my life? I'm so grateful. What's up, guys? Amanda Smith here with the NFL Network's Taylor Bisciotti. Thank you so much for making time for me in your busy Super Bowl preparation.
It's funny because you think that you're off, but then like all these appointments that you've been putting off for the last 6 months are quickly, and I'm like, oh wow, I haven't gotten my car registered. I haven't done this. I still don't have my front license plate on my car. And now that the Rams are going, of course, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to practice.
Okay, so yeah, let's just get this out of the way right now. Rams or Patriots?
Oh, it's so hard. So honestly, I do think that the Rams are the better team. I think that they've got more weapons. They're not as old. But I will say that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in a Super Bowl, it's just very, very hard to bet against them. You know, like the way that we kind of all thought the Patriots sucked this year, where it was like, oh, the Patriots, they don't have it this year, they're done. Well, it's pretty miraculous that they made it to their 8th straight AFC championship game, and now they are in the Super Bowl. So obviously they do still have it. They look like a great team. Obviously we knew that the Chiefs were such a strong team going into it, and it didn't look insanely hard for them to beat them. So as much as I want to mix it up and have the Rams be like the new Super Bowl winners, I just can't bet against the system. And I don't think in our lifetime that we're ever going to see another dynasty like the Patriots. It's unheard of what they've done. And if you're not from Boston, of course, there's a lot of anti-Patriots fans. And I'm not from Boston, so I'm not a diehard Patriots fan, but it's impossible not to respect and just honestly admire what Bill Belichick has done with a quarterback like Tom Brady, and then just building around him and building a system. And at 40 years old, he is still going strong. So it's pretty neat to witness and see.
I'm still bitter that the Bears didn't make it. Let's be real with each other.
I love the Bears, but you guys have a great coach. I think that Trubisky needed to be a little bit more molded, so I think it'll all be good.
I know last year, all of the fans were so concerned, and they're like, "Get him out of here." I'm like, "Give him time. He's young."
Yeah. No, it's like, look at Jared Goff his first year. You know, like now he's considered to be like one of the best, and it's like people were questioning whether GM Les Snead, they're like, did he make a mistake? You know, what's going on? It's like, no. Well, granted, I do think that having Sean McVay, who is a quarterback guru, who is a coach to the quarterbacks and has developed quarterbacks in the past, like Kirk Cousins, and you just saw how his numbers went up exponentially once Sean became the coach, and then went down once he left. And so you just see that he really is a quarterback coach. He's really trained and molded and made Jared Goff who he is, except he had the skill set. Do you know what I'm saying? So people were so easy to jump on that. Oh, they made a mistake with Jared Goff. No, give him time. It's a lot. It's a big process, big jump. I can't imagine it.
We all just need a little time.
We all need a little time. I still need a little time.
Well, speaking of time, I don't necessarily think that there is a sort of timetable in accomplishing your goals, right? But for you, how did you put yourself in a position where you became the NFL Network's youngest on-air hire?
You know, like now you look back and it probably sounds like it was like a really quick process, but at the time, you know, you're like out of school and you're like, wait, did I make a mistake? Because I like got into broadcasting late. I was a accounting major. And so I'm in my last year of accounting, and I'm sitting in class, and I remember it's like March. So I'm about to sign up for like my master's of accounting. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I cannot sit in a cubicle and crunch numbers all day. It's just, I'm not passionate about it. I do it and I can do it. I don't love it. As of right now, I don't do my own taxes. So that just shows you how much I really did not like it. And I felt like I would just be kind of like punching the clock, you know, doing the job and just kind of like going through the motions. And it was just not something that I was passionate about at all. So that summer, the CBS affiliate in DC, their intern had backed out for something or another. And so I got the 11 p.m. nightly news, hard news internship. And my parents, I could tell they were like, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. She'll see she doesn't want to do this either. And she'll just jump right into accounting. They're like, so just keep your master's of accounting, just like, don't tell them you're not doing it yet. Just wait till midsummer. Because my parents are like, oh, she's going to hate it. So my parents are like, you should just start it early. Since you're out of school early, since it was my senior year, they're like, just go early. So I started it early. And because our morning meetings didn't start until 3:30 p.m., I would sneak up to the sports department at like 7 a.m. So I was playing two-a-days. And I just found that obviously I knew I liked sports more, but it was important for me to like kind of start off in hard news just to see, because that could have been the route that I had to go. But I ended up covering like my first week there. I think that it was the Redskins had a big event, and it was when RG3 was the quarterback and Matthew McConaughey was there. But even just going to OTAs and training camp, like I loved the sports aspect of things, and I knew that. But I also, it was good for me to see the hard news side of things. Long story short, my internship is up 3 months later, and they offered me a digital job for sports. I think I was having to do some hard news. I was like, I think I'm going to take it. And my parents were like, absolutely not. If you're going to go this route, they were shocked that I even liked it. If you're going to go this route, you have to go back to school. So I went back to school the night before school started for broadcasting, and I crunched all my classes into 2 semesters. I started like working for ESPNU. I don't know if they still have it. Somebody was actually asking me that the other day. It was where you could go off on your own as a one-man band and create content. Like at the school, they would just send you a mic flag, and then you would send it into them and they would air it like on their ESPNU channel page. So I was doing that along with, literally, I think I had 20 hours each semester so I could get it done in a year. And it was hard, but I don't regret it at all. It was nice to like be able to get it done and still kind of do something on the side. So then I graduated and I did not go work for WUSA 9, which is kind of what I thought I was going to do, just because I felt like the sports department there was dwindling. Like, you know, like you're in a C block and they're only giving the C block for a local news station 4 minutes a night, 3 minutes a night, if you're lucky. And like, think about like how much video and like, so it's just, I didn't feel like I was going to really be like growing at the pace that I wanted to. Granted, that was like a decision that I kind of made spur of the moment. There was a period of time where I thought, you know what, maybe I should have done that, because it was hard freelancing. I was freelancing for Sporting News, Bleacher Report. And keep in mind, when I was doing this, I was a one-man band. So it was a lot. It was a lot. It's like you're shooting, writing, editing, producing, reporting. Like you're literally a one-man band.
I feel you. Been there. Did a lot of freelancing.
Yeah, so you start to question it though. And you're like, you know, like, am I doing the right thing, or should I have gone a different route? And then I got a freelancing job with SEC Network, which was definitely one of like my highlights. I was very excited about that. And I was covering women's soccer. So I was doing the SEC women's soccer tournament, which was great, a good experience, just doing game after game after game. And then I came out to LA after that and just went on a million general interviews. And I thought that like Fox Sports, I was like, I feel like I have a good feeling about them. Well, I didn't even meet with NFL Network. 2 weeks later, I found out that they needed somebody like immediately for news updates. And so I remember it was draft night when I had like my like final on the phone like interview. They're like, okay, yeah, if you can be here like in X number of days. And literally I rented an apartment, like moved out here. Thank God my brother came out like the weekend after I was here, and he was like, Taylor, you have a blow up mattress. I'm like, yes, that is me. But it all happened really quick. And now it's just kind of, you're in that phase where like I'm wanting to do more and I'm trying to grow at the same time. You know, like it's kind of like, as you know, it's an uphill battle every day where you're just like, I have a great job and I love my job, and I want to just make sure that I'm giving them as much as I feel like they've given me. So you always want to challenge yourself to keep trying to get better every day, every hit, and just grow.
Where do you see yourself kind of going from here?
I don't know, because I feel lucky to be where I am right now. And I feel like you're always kind of looking for that next step, where I just feel like it's important to kind of live in the moment.
I say this all the time. Are we best friends?
Yes. Oh, seriously, because you, especially in our business, I feel like you're always thinking, okay, well, if I did all of these 2 things last year, shouldn't I be adding something else to show that I'm growing, to show that I'm doing more? But sometimes it's important to like live in the moment and feel like where you are at in your journey and just try and get better in what you're doing, because otherwise you're always going to be fighting that uphill battle and you'll never be like satisfied. So I'm very like happy with where I am. Of course you want to keep growing and of course you want to get better, but that's more of like something that you need to be challenging yourself to do.
I want to go back to something that you mentioned. So you were an accounting major, then you're like, this is not for me. I feel like maybe people watching this can relate to that sort of feeling of doing something that they're not passionate about, but having this bigger dream in mind. What would you say to them?
Go for it. There's no reason to settle. Like, I don't care how old you are. I love that there's like a quote out there and it's like saying, start now. It doesn't matter if you're 20, if you're 40, if you're 60, do something that you love. And it really will like change your life. You know, like you're going to always be, when you're working for something that you know that you're passionate about and you love, like it doesn't feel like work. But when you're working just to punch a clock, I just can't imagine how that leads to like a happy life. Like you want to be challenged. You want to have to work for something. That's like what makes it gratifying.
I dropped our game that we're going to play.
Okay.
So
yay.
it's just a fill in the blank to get to know you a little bit better. The very first game I covered was, like, very first,
Redskins Eagles for WUSA 9 because a reporter had gotten sick, and this is when I was back in Georgia doing my last year at school, and I still stayed in touch with like their news director and talked to them all the time. They're like, oh gosh, one of our reporters got sick. We don't have somebody to cover the pre-game for the game. So not the actual game, but the pre-game. So we had to get out there at like 8 o'clock in the morning for this Redskins Eagles game. And I flew in that night. Like just like I probably ended up getting paid. I probably ended up paying more for my flight and stuff because it was the experience. And we got to cover like 5 hours of just like pre-game stuff with all these fans and whatnot. And it was scary, but so fun because I ended up going into the game and we did a hit that they ended up using for digital. And it was the biggest adrenaline rush that I probably had to that time ever. I mean, it was so fun. And it was also freezing. So I felt like my hands were numb.
You know, when I was back in college, I used to cover our football team for our university news station, and I would always sneak by the heaters.
Oh,
I just warm my hands.
Network is freezing. I feel like they're trying to freeze us out some days. So 2 years, brought a little space heater in, and then like I had time off during the summer. I come back and the space heater was gone, so they must have found it because I don't think we're supposed to have them. But it's freezing in that building because they try and keep the equipment cool.
Someone who changed the course of my career is
my mom. My mom, like, definitely. She was, when I first decided to switch over from accounting to broadcasting, I could tell my dad was like, why? Accounting is you're always going to have a job. It's just so safe. It's secure. You can do anything from there. But I'm like, but can you? And I'm sure you can. And a lot of accountants end up becoming like entrepreneurs. And I'm sure that I'd probably be making more money right now if I was an accounting major, but it wasn't something that I loved. But my mom was definitely the one that right when I made the decision, she was like, absolutely, you should do it. Like, you should do something that you love. There's no reason not to.
Okay, my first day on TV was like,
I feel like you were always so stressed about, was the package perfect? It was even like a moment of like celebration. You're like, wait, should I have done this differently? Should I have done that differently? I feel like every time you do something, sure, there are days where you feel great and you're like, wow, I really crushed that. But there's still something that when you go to bed at night, you're thinking, I'm very glad and happy the way I did it, but I feel like I can try it differently this time. I feel like that's the time that I ever think that I'd like hit my peak, which certainly wouldn't be anytime soon, would be the time that I feel like you should quit because you should always be trying to think that, okay, I could have done this better, or I could have made it more interesting by doing this. There's always different things that you want to like challenge yourself to do. And it's just kind of, I still to this day, whenever I try and like challenge myself to do something different, it's hard to get out of that, what you're used to doing.
I just feel like I can relate to everything you're saying. Like, we're here.
I love it.
And I can't believe this is my job moment for me was.
It was probably pretty quick into moving out here, honestly. I think it was probably like I'd been here maybe a week on air. And I think that you kind of just probably when my brother came to visit, I was like, wow, I can't believe that I'm here and I'm doing this. It's crazy. Like it all happened so quick. He knew that there was times where I was like, what am I doing? Like what?
Yeah.
The wrong decision. Like you question yourself so much in the beginning and it makes you self-conscious, but you just have to keep going, like view it as rather than like tearing yourself down over a mistake, view it as I'm so glad that happened to me because now I know for the next time that certainly won't happen because you rarely make the same mistake twice. Like of course you're going to lose your train of thought on something like a hit every once in a while, but you won't make the same mistake that you did that first time because you beat yourself up over it. And I feel like something that I still need to keep in mind to do is view it as I'm so happy that this happened to me because now I can learn from it and I can grow. And if it didn't happen, I would still have to probably make that mistake. So my oh my gosh moment, it still hits me every day. Like I feel very grateful and like blessed to like work where I do, live where I do, and especially like work with some of the people that I work with because they really are so talented.
For you, this year I hope that it's a deep one.
Travel as much as I possibly can during the off season. I love traveling. And I've noticed that since I've been here, I'm more timid to take vacation or take time off because I'm like, well, what if this happens and they might need me? Mm-hmm. And I do that a lot. So like even when I'm planning a vacation, like with my friend, one of my best friends, she is from London. So she lives in London and then her parents live in Monaco. And she asked me to go out of town with her for 4 days. And I was so hesitant to like book the ticket, book the flight, even though I knew I had like a few days off. I was like, well, what happens if this story breaks and then they might need me? So then I could be doing it. You know, you just can't live that way. And I love traveling. And I think it taking time off and kind of taking time to yourself, it can only help you because it puts your priorities in order, puts life into perspective, just seeing different cultures and seeing different ways of life and seeing that this isn't the end all be all. And what we're covering is amazing and fun and awesome, but at the same time, there is so much more out there. And so it kind of puts life into perspective and it puts your bad one live hit into perspective because you realize that is off to Mars and nobody really cares.
I want to get to the fan questions. So Brandon C. Smith 5 says, we're going to get a little inside scoop here. What's it like working for the NFL Network?
It's really fun. You know, like I feel like the NFL Network sometimes, as with like every male dominated field these days, it's a little bit of a bad rap, but I have had nothing except positive experiences since I've started there. You know, it's intimidating, especially being like the youngest and being a female going and starting to work there. But I found like really quickly that not only were the guys awesome to work with and they really only wanted to like help and, you know, set you up to succeed, but same with the females. We have a great group of girls there. And so I'm lucky to have that. Like Cynthia Freeland, Erin Coscarelli, I'm super close to all of them. And one of my producers, or not my producer, she works on another show, but Jen Koski, she's just been like a huge support system. So there's really never been a day where I felt like I'm not comfortable there or I don't feel it's a fairy tale place to work. It really is.
This is kind of what you were talking about earlier. Solly Lowe says, is Tom Brady the best quarterback to ever play the game?
I think so. I mean, just look at his Super Bowls. It's just what he's been able to accomplish and what he's been able to do in the salary cap era. It's incredible. It's nothing short of miraculous. Again, I don't think that I'll ever see it in my lifetime. It's just hard to create a system that is bulletproof like theirs is. I mean, Tom Brady has been to 13 AFC championship games. Like that's mind-boggling. And for example, my old boss, Kara Sneed, she's actually the GM of the Rams, Les Sneed's wife. So she was the talent manager when I first started. And she tweeted something out that was mind-boggling to me. She said that when her first year at NFL Network, her very first interview was with Tom Brady. And she was like, now keep in mind, I have been retired for 7 years. So in that time, like she's raised a kid, he's 40 years old. It's crazy. He's been doing this for so long and he continues to win.
Like why stop?
Why stop? And he claims that he's never felt better. I mean, when he was first starting off, he didn't have the experience. He didn't have like the wisdom that he now has. But he's also kept his body in the better shape now. Like he's eating right. He's got every resource to be as healthy as possible. So not only does he have every resource now, but he's got the experience and the wisdom behind it. And so really he feels like he's like at the peak of his career. Granted, at 40 years old, you are only one bad hit away from getting injured. But at the same time, he doesn't really get hit that much.
So Stevie Walker says, what are some key traits one must have to be successful in the type of job that you do?
I think just kind of being able to go with the flow. I think that whenever you go into any story, you have expectations of what your story is going to be. And you have this kind of like preset idea of what you're going to be covering. But I feel like every single time you have that, it's almost pointless because whenever you go cover a story, it changes. The story totally blows up and you kind of take it another direction. So I think being able to wipe away what you originally thought and just go a completely different direction is important.
Colmards says, if you could describe your job in 3 words, what would they be?
Gratifying. I love being able to tell the stories of the players. I feel like they've got each and every single one of them has a story. I don't care which player it is, but to get to the level where they're at, to get to the level of playing where they're at. And a lot of them grew up in just totally different worlds. You know, like they all come from different places, but to be able to come and make it to where they are now is a story in itself because it's pretty miraculous to be able to play at this level and come from so many different backgrounds and come from so many different walks of life and then to make it to where they are. So every single one of those players has such an amazing story. So be able to kind of dig into them and be able to tell those stories means a lot to me. So definitely gratifying. It is exciting, I guess. It's kind of a pathetic way to describe it, but it is. Every day is something new, and every day is exciting because you are challenging yourself and you're talking about different things. And whether it be an update where you're getting news in at the last minute and then trying to turn it around to get it on air, it's always exciting. And then probably challenging.
Ooh, that's a good
It's
one.
challenging. I mean, it is, you are always trying to grow, but at the same time, you want to challenge yourself to be better at what you are currently doing, like we were talking about earlier. So I would say challenging.
Okay, final question. JM Bus 94 says, how did you find out you loved football?
I grew up loving football. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So I grew up in home of SEC country. I went to Georgia too. So obviously I'm a Georgia Bulldog. Go Dogs. This year. Just saying, don't hate me for that if anybody out here is an Alabama fan. But I obviously grew up in the South. So football was a way of life there. Absolutely. Like you eat, breathe, and slept football for Saturdays. Like it was just the way it was. And I actually went to Alabama my freshman year, fun fact. And I don't regret it because it was so incredible to see the way that town, Tuscaloosa, comes together for football. I mean, they shut down streets 2 days in advance. Like you can't drive anywhere because everybody in town is just such a diehard football fan. The town is literally based around football. So it was incredible. And just to be able to go to school where you could see the history behind that organization, Bear Bryant, just like everything about it was just pretty neat. Also, what Saban has done is nothing short of miraculous. He'd probably be like the Bill Belichick of college football. What was our question? I totally lost track.
How'd you find out you loved it?
Okay, yeah. So growing up in the South made me love SEC football, and then I just grew up in a family that loves sports. My dad was a diehard sports fan. It probably all starts with my grandmother on my dad's side. She raised them loving sports, and so I am the only girl on my dad's side of the family. I'm the youngest of 4. It's my brother, and I've got 2 cousins from my dad's brother has 2 sons, and then my dad's sister has 1 son. So when I came out, they were like, what do we do with her? Why is she not a he? And the youngest on top of that. And so I think that honestly, football was a way that I felt like I could relate to them, especially like growing up, like they would always be hanging out and watching sports, and I wanted to fit in. And so I quickly became a big sports fan in general, and especially football. It's definitely like the universal language of our family. It's like you could be having a bad day, but let's just talk about football and put all that to the side. So it's just something that I think I've always grown up with. It's been a part of my family.
Why did you transfer?
So my number one school, surprisingly enough, was I used to spend my summers in Boston because my mom's twin sister lived there. And I applied to like one school, which was BC. I was like, oh, I'll get in. I don't know why I was so cocky. Didn't even think that there was a chance that I couldn't get in. And when I got waitlisted for, I think it was second semester, whatever it was, I was like, oh, where do I go? So I applied to Alabama just because it was very close. So I went there, and I was possibly planning on transferring to BC, but then I really did love like the SEC nature, and I was a homebody. So like going to Georgia I could be on the Hope Scholarship, which was obviously amazing. And I was an hour away from home, which was very great for me because I loved to like be able to go home on Sundays every once in a while and just have a home cooked meal. My family and I were very close, which surprisingly enough, I used to go home a lot when I was in college, and even I lived in Atlanta after graduation, and I never go home now. Like this will be like the first, I like never, ever, ever go home. It's terrible, but my parents come out here a lot, so that's helpful.
You're like, yeah, come to LA. Come see how it's
That's life out here. You have to come.
Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for taking time
for having me. And thank you for me to download Skype. I'm so glad I have it now. I feel younger.
Yeah, or I don't know if that's maybe reversed. Like I think this is maybe like an older thing.
Well, either way, I'm glad I have it now.
If you ever decide you want to travel here, hit me up.
I definitely will. Let me come to LA.
And then we can go to Coffee Bean.
Yes, I was just telling her before we started that my biggest change since I moved to LA is that I'm now addicted to Coffee Bean. I like have gotten off my Starbucks train simply because the coffee cake. It is magical. It'll change your life.
You're trying to get me on it. That's very convincing.
For 12 seconds, it's dangerously good.
Okay, guys. For Taylor Bisciotti, I'm Amanda Smith, and we'll see you next time.